It's a frustrating topic. It pisses me off, to be honest. You said that deported veterans that are living in like Mexican border cities like Tijuana are at great risk due to heavy cartel presence.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that threat is real and it happens every day. When they come back to Mexico after living their entire lives in the United States, right? Some of them they don't speak Spanish because they came to the United States
Yep.
when they were maybe 3 or 4 years old, and that's all they know, right? They look different. So they become a target automatically. And then the word gets out that they're veterans and cartels target them to get them to join their cartel to train their cartel people for tactics, to
Yeah.
for firearms, for any tactics to do the work that cartels do. And we actually had one of our veterans who was in Tijuana who was kidnapped by the cartels. And he was lucky to be able to escape. And we had to relocate him from Tijuana to Juarez. And right now he's in the United States on a humanitarian parole. But because he had that set of skills, he became a good something that they needed.
Yeah.
And not just them, but their families, right? Their families, more often than not, they stay in the United States. So they know that they can say, hey, we're going to do something to your family if you don't work for us. And also, you don't have any money, you don't have nowhere to live, you don't do it, you don't have anything on how to survive, right? So they're like, yeah, we're going to pay you X amount of money if you come train our cartels, right? And and actually most of them, they refuse to do so, and they try to avoid it, and they hide, and it's just they've been kidnapped because of that.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're deporting trained killers to countries that are at war or they have cartels or anything else is just, it blows my mind. It was like, you are deporting, you're throwing us out like trash, but we have a set of skills that you invested in. And
Hmm.
we have to use those now to survive and to make sure that we don't become prey to the cartels.
Is there any policies that would in the future protect our veterans from being deported? You would think that there should be something where if you're if you have a green card, if and you join the military, there should be some kind of policies. If you graduate basic training, then we naturally something. I know I was a drill sergeant. I was a drill sergeant out of Fort Sill. And one of my classes that we graduated, I didn't understand the process of what was happening on the back end. I just heard about it. And so when we graduated, these kids, three of them got naturalization papers that day. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I blew it off. Didn't even know. I had no idea. But that was, that's 2010, 2011, a little later on. Maybe it changed, but I think every situation is kind of different. But is there any policy that's potentially in place right now that we can protect anyone who serves this country and help them get their naturalization papers first before they start going to war or anything else?
Currently, there's not. They have started back in 2000, I want to say 2018, they started a program that is called MAVNI. And that's when they began the naturalizations at basic training. Right. There is also when our military was in need of special skills, meaning linguist or cyber, computer, medical, right? And they began to bring in immigrants who were not US citizens, but they meet the requirement of what the need was. Right now, I know for sure that the Air Force and the Navy have a MOU, memorandum of agreement, with USCIS that what they're doing is they're processing their application, their fingerprints, everything that is needed for their naturalization when they arrive at basic training, and upon graduation, they also swear in and they get naturalized. But that is not a permanent policy. That is something that is happening because guess what? Our numbers are low.
Yeah.
And actually, uh, delivering the promise that we make at recruiting, meaning becoming naturalized, right? It's pretty good for recruiting. And unfortunately, there is nothing that is permanent. There is nothing that someone can just say, well, all right, well, we met our quota, we're good, let's just stop doing this. And that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for this to be directed by Congress, and accepted by DOD, right? So that there is no precedent, whether it's a left or a right, that can come in and say, no, never mind, let's get rid of that, because that has happened in the past. And that's where our service members fall through the cracks. In addition to that, we also want the military to take responsibility and be accountable for delivering on their promise. We want to make sure that the Department of Defense sees us as more than just a number, that they at least track our naturalization as good and as hard as they track late fees on government travel cards. Because every command and staff, there is a meeting and they have a spreadsheet that tells you how many people are behind 30 days, 60 days late on their credit card, and they better make sure that they get it fixed, right? But they just have not made it a priority to have a list of how many non-US citizens we have in the company, in the battalion, the brigade, and what's the status of their naturalization. It's such a simple fix, right? It literally does not take an act of Congress to fix this issue. And it's just not a priority. And until it impacts the mission, then that's when we see things happening. It's just as we're doing now. Naturalization is a basic training, right? Because it's impacting the mission because we don't have the numbers.
Yeah, no, I agree. What is your organization, ROP? What do you guys do to help and assist veterans? Like, what's the process like?
Yeah, so for us, it's outreach. For us is outreach, communicating and networking with VAs, with local organizations like the BFW, American Legion, and other community services, right, on the work that we're doing. Why are we here? What is the problem? What is the issue? So basically educating the community. And outreach, such as the work that Nick does, right, out where the veterans are at, it has really been very impactful, because these are veterans that are 60, 70 years old, and they may not have a computer. They don't know how to fill out a form on the internet, or even to navigate their application for VA benefits. And the outreach that we've been able to do to connect them to pro bono attorneys, and to connect them to the VA so that they can even begin to see a light of hope, has been tremendous. So that is where we put most of our time, on the outreach.
So when they get deported, they're still going to be allowed to receive their veteran benefits of some capacity, depending on the severity of their incident, correct?
Yeah. And so if they're lucky, they probably applied for VA benefits before they were deported and they got some kind of rating, right? And I say if they're lucky, because really, if it's hard in the United States to get a claim approved and actually get a compensation out of it, imagine in Mexico, imagine in El Salvador, imagine trying to find a doctor that can say, yes, you're back, you have bad back because of your service, and then have that been accepted by the VA is extremely challenging, right? So what we're doing right now is we're, depending on their age, we see if they qualify for pension, because that at least will give them some money to be able to eat and put a roof over their head. And the main thing is connecting them to an attorney so that they can review their case and say, hey, yes, we can represent you. There's a chance that we can bring you back on humanitarian parole.
Yeah. It's just crazy. You know, I've been looking a lot into immigration law, and a thought kind of crazy is becoming an immigration lawyer for things like this. That's how stressed this subject gets me. It's like, if you go to war with me, man, I'm going to fight for you. You know what I mean? No matter what, you know, in harsh terrains in our own country, whatever I have to do. But